Welcome back, everyone. It's time to talk about Valve. So, we said that Valve couldn't be bothered to fix Team Fortress 2. At the time, they were in the middle of a massive wave of negative reviews. They were honestly really quite deserved negative reviews. There was press attention, audience frustration, but it actually now seems to have resulted in a massive ban wave and a surge of players, as at least for now, the bot problem in TF2 is being tackled. This is all happening, of course, as the new summer update is releasing. And being a summer update, it's got lots of lovely purchase opportunities for players. So the remaining question then is no longer, will Team Fortress 2 be fixed? It's rather, will Team Fortress 2 stay fixed? Because while there's hot new things to buy, it makes sense to solve the problem. But what about after that? Because the problem with Valve in this game has always been one of consistency. Now, I know one thing, fixing problems feels damn good. We have been relentless about it behind the scenes, and if you would like to support us so that we are not reliant on the algorithm, and of course get our exclusive member content like Loading Screen that we publish daily, you can hit up Bellular.games. It is a very awesome place, and more cool things are coming there shortly. But okay, let's have a chat about Valve. Where we left off is basically the game being scuffed, bots everywhere, and a lot of very unhappy players. The month of June actually saw a spike in negative reviews, almost 100,000 negative reviews in total, and that actually moved the recent reviews to mostly negative. And of course, as I said, that was all because of the bots. And it's not that they were annoying, it's that they can make the game unplayable, right? They can make it unplayable because it's just extremely annoying, and that makes a match no longer fun, but also scams, abuse, whenever bots can be coordinated and they can basically start making life hell for the normal players. And this even went as far as having cheat makers have deep fakes targeting TF2 content creators who complained about the problem. Like, that is absolutely mad. So with all that going on, it's no wonder that the Save TF2 petition reached 343,711 signatures. So basically, well done, community. The question was, would Valve do anything about this? I mean, 100k negative reviews is barely a dent in the lifetime reviews of this game, and I mean, the revenue didn't really seem to change that much overall. But obviously, when all of that drama was happening, the next big wave of purchase opportunities had not yet hit. So let's talk about the steps that Valve took. A wave of bans began to sweep through TF2 as of the end of June, and of course that was alongside an update to a specific support page that basically says this: Team Fortress 2 game bans are permanent, non-negotiable, and are not removed by Steam support. So I think as far as policies go, it's fair to say that's a fairly robust one. Now, these bans are specifically targeting cheating, botting, automation, and general interference with gameplay servers. And the remarkable thing about this is the impact was essentially immediate, with TF2 commentators being clear that this was just absolutely because of the wave of accounts created for botting. As an example, here's a quote from one of them. "I played 20 matches today. I checked in less popular regions and not a single bot. And also the difference between the player count in the last week before the ban wave and now is huge. If Valve continues doing this, TF2 could make a major comeback." Now, I've got to say, that is an absolutely thrilling idea. TF2 is an awesome game. It is absolutely central to the history of gaming, and it's a game that absolutely still does hold up today. And it does just make me wonder, is there more they could do with TF2? Now, obviously, I'm not saying that TF2 is suddenly just going to compete with Valorant or Counter-Strike or something, but man, it's a good game. Why the hell are we not seeing a little bit more to it? Maybe some more progression, some more modes, some more stuff. It just kind of begs belief for me. Now, obviously, there is Deadlock, the new Valve game that basically is in a weird situation. It's a Valve game that hasn't been talked about, right? They have not talked about it publicly, yet we can actually see it on SteamDB. We can see how many players are beta testing it, and there's even a subreddit for it. So in the same way that like Overwatch and LoL and all the games have got a big subreddit, this unannounced game that Valve haven't talked about has its own subreddit full of players talking about the game. So that really is quite weird. And maybe it's the case that with that game being on the horizon, Valve just don't see the point in further investing in the development of this game. Now, they are doing things like the summer update that we'll get onto, but I guess I'm just a little bit sad. I wonder what it would look like. I mean, in the same way that Counter-Strike Go turned into Counter-Strike 2, and I know there's a bit of drama there, but what if they did a proper, big, high-effort TF2 thing? I don't know, it's just a hope. What I do know is the player surge. So you can see the surge in player count, and you can see a surge in reviews. They have went back to being mostly positive in the last 30 days, and a month ago, Steam recorded player numbers of over 150k for TF2. That is up from an average of around 60k. And if you've been thinking about like how much bots, griefing, toxicity, like all of these problems, how much those actually damage a game's community, normally people would look at TF2 and say, yeah, sure, it's still in the player counts, but come on, we all know it's bots. Well, the bots are gone, and the player count has not went down, which is really a thrilling endorsement of how good this game and how timeless this game is. But even with all that, a boycott had been planned for TF2's summer update. Now, of course, the summer update is always the one with, spending events. It does generate a ton of revenue for Valve, and this was organized by Save TF2. Those were the people who were pushing for players to just really, really pressure Valve, and that was by not spending on cosmetics, leaving even more negative reviews, and refusing to play the game. Now, that was before the anti-bot measures began. The team, though, on the petition, has actually changed their terms. They have said that if the bot ban stopped, then an outright boycott would be called for. But if the anti-bot measures are to continue, then those would be somewhat mitigated and they would be more happy to continue and not boycott the game. And this is all dependent on how things looked during and after the summer update. Here's a quote. As of July 1st, Valve has taken extensive measures to alleviate TF2's botting crisis. While we as a community are incredibly grateful for the actions being taken, many of us believe that further evidence is required to warrant a newfound sense of confidence in the game's future. These efforts require persistent and continuous upkeep, otherwise we risk returning to the bot-infested status quo. And that's the thing that matters. One thing that I would always say to people who are involved in any sort of live game is, this is almost like investability. We're not talking about money, like, yeah, obviously, but in the same way that, let's just say the government in the UK did this thing, the mini budget. It, suffice to say, was ballsy, maybe so ballsy that financial markets were spooked. What happened there is confidence was lost, so people don't want to put their money there. And it's just like that in games. Confidence needs to be there so that people feel comfortable putting their time in, because time is the one thing. Unlike with money, you can't earn time back. And of course, for Valve, if they want money, well, they need to earn our time. And that means there needs to be a sense of confidence. So what this player advocacy group is doing is basically saying, yeah, okay, awesome, but we're still looking at you, and they're absolutely right to do so. If Valve will only deal with this problem ahead of a massive update with loads of things to buy, then it absolutely does just ring hollow. With that being said, let's talk about the update itself, though. So it's quite similar to last year in that it's just a big old patch. There are 10 new maps added to the game, 23 new items in the summer cosmetic case. That's, of course, how Valve will be making their money. There's 4 taunts and 38 new effects, but there's also what they say are security and stability improvements. Yeah, I wonder what those are. There's also updates to existing maps. As an example, Cashworks has seen some love, which is certainly good, but much like last year, this is not just Valve sitting down and getting a team to do loads of work. No, these are heavily taken from the community and made standard. Now, the impact is that TF2 is currently the 18th best-selling game on Steam, and it was actually fluctuating around the top 10 during the immediate, player spending response to this update. Now, the summer update did not reach the player count heights of the ban wave, but it did move beyond 100k, and so far, mostly the bots haven't returned. Now, players are reporting the new bots are being found, and right now it's at that lower level where server admins are able to deal with it. Now, this is not something that I'm immediately going to go and roast Valve for, because basically, whenever bot bans happen, that's usually because of some sort of methodology, right? A way of catching the bots. So, yeah, whenever new bots appear, and they're not caught by the same technology, it means the bots are doing something a little different, and that means that Valve have got to do some work to basically, work out how to catch them. And that matters because in doing this ban wave, Valve has taken an active stance on what is really a tug of war. They have signed up, at least in the eyes of their community, not just to doing one big bot wave or ban wave. No, they have signed up to fixing the entire goddamn thing and to keeping it right. So every action they take against the bots will basically have the bot farmers trying to counter that. Valve will then have to counter that, and it will just be an ongoing, an ongoing war. And that's the problem with the community. The community does not have the trust because basically Valve have shown that for a long time they hadn't really deserved that trust. Now, it's that thing. Like, Valve is a company that I think rightly a lot of people have a very positive opinion of. Some of their games are absolutely foundational and they are landmark to our industry. I mean, Half-Life 1. Half-Life 1, it changed gaming in such a profound way. Half-Life 2 pushed things forward. Like, Valve are absolutely amazing when it comes to games. However, they're also a very strange, unique company. They're basically a very horizontal company. There's not really that many like layers of management, at least in an official sense, because basically people at Valve, they kind of work on what they want to. And Valve isn't really a company that's all about ordering people around the place. Now, sometimes you could see that as being a really good thing, right? Like, oh, it's this cool, creative space. They've got all this money in from Steam, and that means they don't have to act like a big, evil company, you know? But the other side of that is sometimes, while there is not a hierarchy that is, very much like enforced by an employment contract, it's more of a social one. And then you basically just have the problem of if people at Valve are not interested and don't really care about TF2, then TF2 will not see that much love because of how Valve is structured. Now, while I see lots of positive things to Valve's, I suppose, more oddball kind of libertarian way of running their own company, I do think, though, that they have a responsibility. And that responsibility is to their players. And that does actually mean that you need to maintain a level of service to your players, even if there aren't loads of people inside the company chomping at the bit to fix the problem. Because right now, the community are actually the people making the new maps that get, I suppose, made official in these updates. The community are the people who are driving the fixes and the updates. Valve basically just implement those, and they obviously subsidize, servers, development implementation via more cosmetics, right? Because you got to remember, Valve don't make the maps. The community makes the maps. The community drives the fixes and drives the updates. Valve just implement those things and pay for the servers and some development stuff, and of course that's funded via the cosmetics. Now, because the bots were not the first time we've talked about TF2 being in a bad state as a game, and that means that like this isn't just a one-off thing. This was the final straw for players who have been underserved for years and years and years. So if the bots get bad, then Valve have effectively stopped trying to fight the bots, rather than what they've done previously, which is just passively not addressing the problem. Valve need to actually stick by their commitment here. And so the question now is what to expect TF2 to actually be, and making sure that audiences understand that. Is this a game that Valve actually develops, right? Outside of just getting maps that other people have made and throwing them online and doing a bot ban wave while they put in some new cosmetics. Is that what TF2 is? Or can TF2 be more? Can Valve do that in a world where perhaps it seems, and as I've talked about, the interest of employees of the company, well, if that interest is all in deadlock, that's all well and good, but guess what? You've got real players now, and maybe it's a bit like the Destiny 2 player who sees all these problems in the game that they're playing, is worried about the company, and knows that the company's diverting massive resources to Marathon. Yeah, Marathon may be great, but guess what? The thing that people are paying in terms of their attention, their time, and their money, actually their emotions as well, what about that? That's the thing that matters first. So, what do you think? What has your experience been back in TF2? And if you want a fun factoid, the very first video I think I ever made on YouTube was indeed a TF2 kill compilation that I grabbed music from one of my friend's boyfriend's band. I put it there, and I was playing as the demolition dude, slashing people up, and it was a good time. So, I know I've rambled on, but this is actually a game that's pretty foundational for me. So, yeah, I care. Anyway, that's it from me. Let me know what you think. I'll see you back here again tomorrow. Thanks for hanging out. Goodbye.